Well, I believe we are live now.
Are we? Okay.
John June to limits some pages from going live.
All right.
This shouldn't have anything to do with us. Facebook's been making some changes lately.
I'm looking for it, but I don't see it.
Well, you have to go to the Dare Me.
You know, I have been monitoring, man, since we wrapped in March, Dean. I've had 32 new subscribers to the YouTube channel, and we ain't even been on the air for 3 months.
Right.
It's like I still get DM. Well, we'll talk about it. I still get DMs every
Okay,
week.
It's
like I still get DMs.
There you go.
I'm not seeing it.
Get DMs every week.
Okay,
It's like
I'm not seeing it.
go to the YouTube.
Oh, I'm looking at the Dear Me Facebook
Well,
page.
should be able to go to that as well. We should be there.
Okay, let me go look.
Oh, I'm looking at the Dear Me
Yeah, it's not there. I mean, I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, let's just see here.
Okay.
Dare Me, Facebook. You know, we set that up. Let me edit. Let's see if I can. Yeah, there it is. Boom.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it.
But for some reason, oh, hang on.
Because that's where I usually copy the link from and then repaste it.
There's something going on. Either Facebook is blocking the Dare Me podcast page. We may not have enough active followers.
What do you mean I have nothing different than what we used to?
Well, Facebook changed some things, so let me look on, because so we might have to just share the YouTube channel, the YouTube video, Facebook, and
Well, that sucks.
well, like I said, I just got notified from through Facebook, and it looks like they changed some things. I thought we'd be all good, and of course, I didn't know we were gonna Dare Me podcast. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Dare Me podcast, podcast studio. Dare Me podcast. Dare Me podcast. I'm just not even finding the Dare Me Facebook page. I'm just not even finding the. There.
Okay, well, I guess.
See, all right. So there's the Dare Me. So what's going on here? I don't think you have enough followers on the Dare Me Facebook.
How many do you have to have?
Again,
You don't know.
they changed.
No, I'm just wondering if you
Facebook
knew.
changed. Is this something you want to have this? You want to talk about this now?
Not
Or would
really.
You, yeah.
I'm just
So you're gonna have to go to.
wondering if you knew, that's all.
Well, we're live, so if you want to go ahead and share it on the
Well,
YouTube, go to the YouTube channel.
That's what I'm doing. I'm just going to
Okay.
copy the link right now.
Hey, folks, we're just going to be another moment here. That's why we kicked it off, so we can take care of some of this weird stuff. Facebook is being screwy with us these days. So
That's what happens when you disappear for 3 months.
No,
You don't keep
they
up
just-
with the shit.
Facebook just, well, yeah. And like I said, it's been this week I started getting notifications from Facebook. And they might require 100 followers.
I'm going to ask Siri right now.
No, let's just go ahead and share it.
How many followers are you required to have on Facebook to go live? Oh, it's not.
Dude,
Voice search is temporarily unavailable. Please try again later. My phone is acting weird.
did you
bro.
share it? Yeah, the YouTube?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm trying to. But this is not good because some people aren't cool about leaving Facebook to go to YouTube and all that, but fuck it, it is what it is. I'm over it already, and this is exactly why I don't want to go live anymore.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about it. It's all good. Okay, whenever you're ready to start, bro, let's do this.
Yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and put up. Never a dull moment in the world of streaming. All right, I'm going to mute us both for a second.
On average, just in the United States, about 220 people die every single day from an opiate overdose. And by the time we finish this show, 8 to 10 people are going to die from an opiate overdose. If we get even one person, one viewer with this program that we might be able to help with some of the information that's shared on here, then it's all worth it.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Glenn Victor, and I just want to say hey to everybody in the Dare Me podcast world out there.
Billy Bob Thornton, thanks, bro. I really appreciate it, man. All right, you rock.
What's up? It's your boy Lamar Odom with Glenn Victor.
You, man.
Podcast, the Dare Me podcast, #1 podcast.
Oh, you rock. Thanks, bro. Appreciate you, man.
Hi, I'm Morat. I'm here with Glenn from the Dare Me podcast, and we're hanging out.
Yes.
It's great.
I love it. Morat, you rock. All right.
Hey, I'm Lila Drew. I'm here with Glenn, and I want to give a big shout out to everyone listening to the Dare Me podcast.
All right. Lila Drew, you rock. Thank you.
Glenn, you rock.
All right.
Hi, it's Romy. I'm here with Glenn Victor. Shout out to everyone on the Dare Me podcast.
Yeah. Oh, you rock. Thank you, Romy.
Hi there, I'm here with Glenn Victor. I want you to listen to the Dare Me podcast. You
It's
must.
Al Stewart, you rock, brother.
Oh,
Thank you.
I'm Al Stewart.
You rock. Thanks, bro.
Hey, this is Tom from Leisure. Just out here at the El Rey with Glenn Victor on the Dare Me podcast.
Yeah, you rock, bro. Thanks, man. Cool. All right.
How's it going? I'm Jaden from Leisure. I'm here with my man Glenn on the Dare Me podcast. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, it's your old pal Glenn Victor. Peace. Welcome to the pop-up flash mob summer special edition of the Dare Me podcast. We are coming to you live right now from the biggest tourist destination in the world, Orlando, Florida. And we are posted up at the PFX Media podcast studio, and we're sitting here with our old pal, our co-host and producer, that boy Dean Baker. Hey Dean, what's happening, bro?
Oh, let me just hang on. Let me just go. All right, there we go. How you doing, Glenn?
Okay, there he
Yeah,
is.
yeah, there we go. Yeah,
The
yeah.
camera, y'all, but
I'm just
looking
gonna
at the
adjust my
monitor.
microphone here.
Well, hey, we had some flies in the ointment, as they say, getting started this evening, but we are live right now, and of course, the recorded version of this podcast will be posted on the Dare Me podcast YouTube channel, the Dare Me podcast Facebook page, my personal Facebook, and all the platforms that we're on right now. And we are here tonight to make a special announcement. We haven't been on with the podcast since
I
we...
don't think that's an announcement that we haven't been on.
Well, the announcement's coming up.
Okay.
I haven't made the announcement yet. It's coming up.
I'm just fucking with you.
I know, but we haven't been on since March 11th. That's when we did our final episode of season 1. And if you're a regular follower, viewer, listener to our podcast, you already know we did the podcast, the Dare Me podcast, for 1 full year, every single Sunday live. We had a couple of weeks there where we played pre-recorded versions, like on Super Bowl Sunday, and there was one week there was a bad storm, had a power outage and all that. But we made a commitment to do that podcast live every Sunday for a full year, and we did it, didn't we, Dean?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we had some pretty good episodes, all things considered. Some great guests we had over the course of the year. There, of course, were some cringe moments here and there, but it was all good. And man, oh man, at the end of the year, we wrapped it up, and I needed a break, and I'm sure Dean did too. It kind of reminded me of what's that one Snoop Dogg song where he says, I had to back up off a bit and set my cup down. That's kind of how I felt with the podcast, man, because there's a lot of work that went into the prep for those, and a lot of stress, trying to be live at a certain time every single Sunday. I'd say we hit the mark probably, about 80% of the time, wouldn't you say, Dean?
Ooh, a B minus, huh?
Yeah, well, there's always some shit in the game, man. We'd have technical difficulties like we did tonight. We had some technical difficulties. We were shooting to start at, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 4 Western time, and here we are almost an hour later, but hey, it's all good, man. But anyway, so we're glad to be back with you, and we hope everybody's having a great summer. I'm here in Orlando visiting, and this really was kind of a spur-of-the-moment idea. We didn't even decide to do this live episode of the podcast till, like yesterday morning? Is that when we kind of set it, in stone that we do it? And so let me get to the special announcement, is that we are, in fact, going to do Season 2 of the Dare Me podcast. That will begin in the fall. We're just doing a special kind of midsummer edition tonight for the fun of it, man. We're just having some fun. I'm here in town visiting Orlando, my second home, where I met Dean when I moved here 32 years ago, because I moved away 2 years ago, and I live in Sacramento, California now, to be near my beautiful daughter, Alyssa, who I have a special announcement about in just a little bit. But yeah, man, I'm here visiting Orlando, and I had to catch up with Dean, and we just decided, you know what? Let's do a live edition of the podcast and announce that we will be back for Season 2 in the fall. However, there's going to be some changes from the way that we did it before. It is going to make life a lot easier for me and Dean, and I think it will also make it more palatable for you, the viewer, and the listener. We are not going to go live with the podcast anymore. We may once in a while if it's a special occasion or whatever, but most podcasts, and as I was telling Dean a little bit earlier, I've listened to and watched a shit ton of podcasts since we wrapped, and even before that, just kind of getting a feel for and watching how other people do it, and even the other podcasts you guys do here at the studio, Dean. Almost all of them are pre-recorded. And it'll make our life so much easier because we'll be able to record it at a time convenient for both of us throughout the week. Matter of fact, there was some guys doing a podcast in the other studio here that you told me were recording. They did one live and recorded 3 all in one setting.
They've been at it for a few hours.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I couldn't kick them out. They had a little bit more to do, and we're going.
No, it's all
that's why we moved into studio number 1.
Yeah, but the point is though that, hey man, we can do that too if we want to, because we already have some great guests lined up for when we come back for Season 2 starting in the fall. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag yet, but even just yesterday I confirmed one of those guests. We got some pretty cool guests coming up for Season 2. But the point is, again, Dean, it'll make life so much easier, as you know, for the both of us. And if need be, we can record 2-3 episodes in a week or just one from week to week, however we may want to do it. It's going to give us so much more flexibility and a lot less stress trying to, get ready and be live. It was a lot of fun being live. There's a certain rush to it, that adrenaline flow, and knowing you're being live all over the world on the internet on all these different platforms, and it was pretty cool, man. Like I said, we may do it from time to time, but for the most part, it's going to be all pre-recorded. And also, we are going to do everything, and it's really on me to keep it to 1 hour. We're going to have it all packaged up real nice in a nice little box with a pretty little bow. And, Dean and I have worked in the television, radio business pretty much half our lives, and so we can hit a mark right on the nose when it comes to timing. And so that's going to be our target. Shoot for 1 hour shows. And like I said, that's mostly on me. Because if you know me and you watched and listened to our podcast, I am never at a loss for words. We did some long ass shows, didn't we, Dean?
Yeah,
yeah,
some marathons.
It wasn't unusual for us to go 2, 3, 3.5 hours. We did 2 marathon sessions on Christmas and New Year's, 6-hour shows. Do you remember that? We just wanted to keep people company on Christmas and New Year's, for the purpose of our show, which I'm going to talk about in a moment. And they were a blast. We had a lot of fun. All of those shows, by the way, are out there on the Dare Me podcast YouTube channel. That's the platform I try to gear everyone towards. But, also on the Dare Me podcast Facebook and all the other platforms. But the Dare Me podcast YouTube channel, if you go there, you click on either the videos tab, which I still need to update, by the way, or the live tab, where you'll see all of our banter before we actually take the show live. All 50 episodes are there, including those marathon sessions I just mentioned. So anyway, that's our special announcement is, yes, we are going to bring the podcast back. In fact, I've been getting messages here while we're on. I want to send a shout out to that boy, Soldani, who was one of our guests on the podcast. Chris Soldani just messaged me, are we bringing the podcast back? And yes, bro, we are. But as I just mentioned, it'll be in the fall. It's just a special spur-of-the-moment edition we decided to do live. And they're all going to be pre-recorded so that, even if we want to, maybe even clean them up, do a little editing, whatever, And it's going to be a lot of fun, man. So we're looking forward to that. And I had dinner with, some people earlier before I came, and they were like, oh, my God, my boy Mark, who's been on the podcast, said, are you committing to that for another year? I thought you were stressed out doing it for a whole year. And so I told him, no, we're not committing to a year. We're committing to a season. And so, like I said, with a lot of these other podcasts that have done, several seasons, usually, what do they do, like 26 shows, Dean? I've seen some who do 20. We haven't pinned a number down yet, but I'm kind of thinking in the ballpark, 20, 25 episodes, and we'll call it a season. And then we'll decide if we want to come back for season 3 or whatever after that. So,
okay.
Yeah, that's kind of what our thinking and our feeling is. So with all that said, let's talk about what the hell is this podcast even all about, the Dare Me podcast, and that's something I was thinking about also, Dean, is, when I think back to all them shows, every fucking time we did the show, I'd go into this long dissertation about what the show is all about. And, like I said, I'm never at a loss for words, so sometimes it'd be longer than others, and I think I'd like to record maybe a minute-long dissertation of what this podcast is all about, so we can just kind of play it right out of the open and then just jump right into the nitty-gritty of it. I even had one of my sisters, Carol, if you're watching, Carol, say, well, goddamn, man, every time I watch it podcast, it's like you're repeating the same stuff over and over and over, which I get. But I always felt like, hey, man, we get new viewers and listeners every week, which we did and do. I still hear from people all the time. So I always felt it was important to talk about what the podcast is all about. But, there's that old saying, I get tired of hearing my own damn voice sometimes, and I would get kind of tired of hearing myself repeat over and over and over what the podcast is all about. So I think I'd like to record one, in between now and when we bring it back in the fall. And then that way we can just play it right out of the open so that people know. So, with all that said, this podcast is all about the acronyms of the name Dare Me that we've, talked about so many times before. Drugs, addiction, recovery, enlightenment, music, and exercise. And the whole name Dare Me was just kind of, derived, if that's the right word, out of my thoughts and feelings when I started this thing about recovering out loud from my drug addiction. I got hooked on opioid pain medication. I broke my ankle, long story and all that. Never should have started taking that shit because I have a long history of struggles with addiction. I'm a 12-step guy. I've been involved in NAAA, fucking as we always say. I'm no representative, or anything like that, but I can damn sure talk about it, and I do because it's such a huge part of my life and has been for more than half my life. And, I had a bad relapse, man. I got hooked on that shit for years. And thank God, I'm so happy and proud to say that I do have over 3 years and 3 months clean again. I live my life completely drug-free. And that includes booze, by the way, which is the biggest drug in the world out there. Man, we talked about it on past podcasts, Dean, about how it's like alcohol seems to get a free pass in our society and shit, and it's just such bullshit because, hey, if you're a person that likes to drink and you can keep it moderate and control it, more power to you. I ain't judging nobody. Fuck, I like drinking them NA beers, man. I drink them all the time. I love those Heine Zeros, and they ain't for everybody, especially people in recovery. There's people in recovery who they're hardcore about that shit. They even think it's like a relapse. And hey, man, I ain't judging. If that's you, do you, and I'm doing me, and I hang out with people a lot who still like to party. I'm the designated driver, man, and I get free, NA beers or sodas all night long. So, I don't judge nobody. Look at my track record, for God's sake. Anyway, the point I'm making is, y'all, I got clean and, have a long history working in radio, television, all that stuff. Seems like everybody's doing a goddamn podcast now. And, of course, Dean and I have worked together for years on all kinds of different projects. And so we start kicking it around and we decided to do the podcast. And so we did. We did a whole year of it. And, we've been on break for a few months now. And, I did some praying on it, some meditating on it, and thought about it a lot, and I decided to do it again for season 2. And you know what, Dean? We talked about this a little bit before we went on the air here tonight. Part of the reason, really the main reason I'd like to think that I want to do it again is because we truly have helped a lot of people. Like we say in that introduction that, Dean, you put together for us at the beginning when we first started the show, which I love. I still get great feedback on it, about how if we can help even one person, than me putting myself out there like this, and making a spectacle of myself, as we jokingly but half serious say, if it helps even one person, that's all worth it to me, and we've helped a lot of people. And as I was saying before we went on the air, man, we've been off the air with this thing for 3 months, and I still get DMs and emails through the Dare Me podcast email weekly, sometimes 2 or 3 times a week. We have referred so many people, more than I can imagine, to treatment, recovery houses. Here in Orlando, we had that boy Marvin Lillian with his, talking about his recovery houses, Mind, Body, and Soul here in Orlando. My boy Steve Lawrence from Detroit, who we had on with the Alpha Recovery Homes up in Detroit. We talked about Eric Clapton's recovery center out in Antigua. I mean, we have really been a great resource for people struggling with addiction who stumbled on our podcast. And it just blows my mind how far of a reach we've had. When I thought about doing this, Dean, I thought maybe I can get through to some family, friends. They'll get a kick out of watching Glenn doing this podcast, maybe, there's people I know in, my circle of family and friends that, sometimes, go a little too far, we'll say. And I thought, hey, maybe I can be some type of inspiration for them to get and or live and stay clean. And man, that I used it in a reel today I put together, that Google Analytic, that our YouTube channel has had over 21,000 people view it. 21,000. Fucking blows my mind, man, that we have had that far of a reach. As you know, Dean, we've had people even, when we were taking live callers, when we did it before, we had people call in, from all over the United States. Out of the country, Canada, South America, our boy from Saudi Arabia, awesome. Shout out if you see this, bro. So it just really is amazing the reach we've had with this and the amount of people that, we hope we've been able to help. We're not taking no credit and saying we've saved the world or anything, but, there is an old saying in the recovery community, you can't carry the addict, but you can carry the message. And sometimes it's just about planting the seed. It doesn't always happen overnight where someone makes a decision and they get clean like that and, they watch a podcast like this and change their life. But if we can even plant the seed that might, inspire someone to try to get clean if they get hooked on, opiates or booze or whatever the hell it may be, to get and stay and live clean, then hey, man, it's all worth it, And as we've talked about on, so many previous episodes, Dean, the fentanyl crisis is out of fucking control. Still, man, still. I still monitor the news. If you go back and watch some of those previous episodes, we always did the news segment.
Well, just because we took a break
doesn't mean
fentanyl
yeah, you're exactly right. I'll just say this, man. I have some photos and some video I took that we're going to show on later episodes. I took a drive through downtown O-Town last night here in Orlando. And you don't always hear about Orlando in the news because it is in fact the biggest tourist destination of the world, and I think the media kind of keeps it a little bit at bay here in this town. Mickey Mouse and all that. They don't want to scare people away. We talked a lot about the Tenderloin in San Francisco, how bad it is there. Philadelphia, Chicago, Detroit, Miami. We've talked about all those cities. Well, I'm driving under the overpass, I-4 in Amelia, downtown, which is right in the heart of downtown Orlando. If you know, you know.
Yeah.
And on both sides, bro, fucking homeless everywhere, just camped out everywhere there. And it kind of caught me by surprise, and all I could think to myself was fucking fentanyl, man. I know we have a homeless problem that maybe isn't all drug related, but that's what my first thought was.
They used to hang out at Lake Eola.
Yeah, Lake Eola.
Lake Eola, where the Disney Amphitheater is, right on the side of Lake Eola, and I think they've been
they're everywhere. And you know what?
Pay attention, and
yeah, in warm climates like Florida, you're going to get more of the homeless than you are up north where it gets cold in the winter.
I think right on where the overpass, anywhere where I-4 is elevated going through downtown, you're going to find a lot of homeless because it's shelter.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
exactly.
Shelter from the rain, and when you get rain multiple times a day, it's I can
Yeah,
it just happens.
It's just
at least they're live and moving.
Yeah,
as opposed to,
most
I have no, I haven't.
Nodding. I don't fucking know, but again, maybe that's me, speculating. But you can't help but think to yourself, man, this is all drug related shit. But in any case, man, maybe I digress and I got a little sidetracked there. But I will tell you, man, if you want to see an interesting episode of the Dare Me podcast, we did one, what was it called? Back from the Dead. If you go to that Dare Me podcast YouTube channel, you'll see your old pal Glenn take a drive through the Tenderloin district of San Fran on a Friday night, and oh man, there was some shit in the game that night, that's for sure. That was an interesting episode. But in any case, man, let's shift gears. That's what the podcast is all about, and we are a good resource for anyone who may be looking to kick. See, that's what happened with me. I was so hooked on them opiates. I was trying to get off of them myself. I didn't want to go into drug treatment. I really didn't want to confide in other people and shit. So I was looking for information online, how to kick opiates. Because, man, I'll tell you what, I know, a lot of people feel like, addiction is a sickness and the drugs are just a symptom and a drug is a drug is a drug and they're all the same. Well, I say fucking bullshit to that, man, because I fucked with other drugs, and getting off of Coke and booze and smoking weed and all that that other shit. That was a walk in the park compared to getting off opiates, man. That shit ain't no fucking joke. And if you know, you know. And where I'm going with that, man, is that I was looking for information online about how to kick opiates before I was able to get clean this time. And there's information out there. There's some good stuff, even on YouTube and stuff. Found some great videos, a lot of which we talked about on previous episodes. But nothing like what we're doing with this podcast and have done in the past. So that kind of fueled the inspiration I got, if you will, to do this, that there wasn't really anything out there like what we're doing, and combining these different topics that have been so important for me as part of my recovery, working on peace through enlightenment and things to that nature, exercise and, getting fit. Man, we've talked so much about fitness on this program and had some great guests, including my son, G Money, who's still, by the way, living in Honolulu, Dean. If you remember that farewell episode we did back in March, we went live from Hawaii. That's out there on the Dare Me Podcast YouTube channel. We had G on. We had him on a few times over the course of that year talking about fitness and, music. Oh, my God. So important for this addict in terms of getting clean. Music therapy. And we talked about it so much on this podcast. And we'll be talking about it more when we come back in the fall and have some really cool music guests. And I'm talking international superstars that we've got lined up, man. When we come back in the fall, it's going to be a good show. Like I said, we're gonna kick it up a notch, It was really cool doing it the way we did it. Just real loosey-goosey, laid back, just shooting from the hip and all that other shit. And I'm going to kind of miss that format, the way we did it. But we are going to really kind of tighten it up. Like I said, man, we're going to kick it up a notch, try to make it a little more professional and nice little pretty box with a pretty little bow. Keep it to 1 hour and all that shit, pre-recorded. You get the idea, But in any case, man, we do got some really cool musical guests coming up too. So anyhow, y'all, with all that said, I really don't have a whole hell of a lot more I wanted to talk about tonight other than to make a special announcement that we are going to bring the Dare Me podcast back for season 2 in the fall. I'm not tied down to a specific date yet, but it'll be mid-September-ish. Definitely after Labor Day. And, I just couldn't resist coming by to see Dean while I'm here visiting Orlando, posted up live right now at the PFX Media podcast studio. So thanks for having us here tonight, Dean.
Not a problem.
Yeah.
I thought you might even want to, with a recent release of Marshall Mathers.
Oh, yeah.
I figured you'd be like all talking about that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm glad you brought that up because it reminds me.
Because that was just recent. That was just
no. There's a couple other things that I want to talk about. And as you recall, Dean, and if you're a regular viewer of our podcast, we always had a shit ton of slides and videos. We just didn't do all that tonight because this really was kind of a spur-of-the-moment idea. But I was telling Dean, man, y'all, if you've watched our podcast before or even follow me on social media, you know that I'm a huge fan of this, such a talented artist, really a rapper, but he's an artist all around. Caskey, Brandon Caskey's his name, goes by the stage name Caskey, and he's an Orlando boy. He lives here in Orlando. I think he moved to the coast, but he actually went to school with my son G for about a year at this middle school called Indian Trails over in Oviedo. This is going back like 15 years or whatever it was. And so my son turned me on to his music, and then I ended up meeting him, and I've known him. God, I guess it's been at least about 12, 13 years and, gone to see him perform a few times and I actually saw him in SAC about a month or so ago. They were on tour. But anyway, where I'm going with that, I was telling Dean, it's like, I kind of think of it as the Kevin Bacon effect. Remember with Kevin Bacon, how everybody would say, okay, Kevin Bacon is connected to this guy and that guy through, all these different avenues, kind of like a tree, branches out and stuff. And so where I'm going with that is I know Kasky and his producer, Marlon Sorrentino, Anonymous, shout out Mass if you see this. We were trying to get a hold of him today. We couldn't get through to him, though. I'd left him a couple messages. But anyway, so where I'm going with that is Kasky is friends with, like, Jelly Roll. And Jelly Roll just performed with Eminem in Detroit, like, 10 days ago or whatever the fuck it was. I don't know. And I mean, talk about the GOAT, you know, M from Detroit City, where your old pal Glenn's from. And I'm thinking to myself, God damn, man, I would love to get that boy M on this show to talk about living clean. Hey, man, you know, there's an old saying, aim high, soaring, aim low, boring. You just fucking never know, man. You never know. But, you know, Eminem, let's face it, has been such an inspiration to so many people like myself to get and live clean. You know, that whole recovery album and the whole thing he did with that, and he's still living clean, you know. And so that's just like one person removed. I know Kasky, he knows Jelly knows them. Maybe you just never know, man. You never fucking know.
Work on that.
Yeah, he's good friends with Yellow Wolf, too. I mean, they did a whole fucking CD together, and Yellow's performed with them, too. So you just never know, man. Like I said, you know.
So what did you think of his the most recent release?
The new tune? It's okay. You know, I mean, it's if you know that he took the Steve Miller tune, Abracadabra, and that's the beat that he, you know, made the lyrics and did the rap to, and you know, it's catchy. I like it. You know, it's definitely, you know, if you watch TikTok, man, it's kind of like this little battle going back and forth with millennials and the current generation and all that, and they're like, you know, a lot of people, you know, the younger generation. I don't know. A lot of this shit I think is just made up on, you know, social media.
That's provoked.
People are saying, well, this is bullshit. He should be canceled. He's not being politically correct. And the millennials are like, fuck you. You don't even know who Eminem is, bitch. You know. And so, anyways, that's this whole thing. You know. But anyway, to answer your question, yeah, it's a good tune, man. And
if I were Steve Miller, I'd be like, oh yeah,
I guess he did make a statement that, you know, he was glad that, you know, M used his song, and you know, he was, you know, glad to see that, you know, it's still out there. That's like an old tune, man. Abracadabra. That's got to be a 30-year-old song.
70s or early 80s? I think it's probably.
I think it was the 80s.
Could have been late 70s even.
Yeah. Well, because in the 70s he did "Fly Like an Eagle," and then, but whatever it was, you know. So yeah, man, you know, you just never know. You know, like I said, man, we like to shoot for the sky. You know, we've had some very high-profile people on this show, like even in the intro that you played, Dean, with all the shout-outs. For God's sake, we have Billy Bob Thornton. Yeah, that Billy Bob Thornton. Give us a shout-out for the podcast. Yeah. And who else is in that thing, man? God, we got fucking Romy from the XX, Romy. We got Mallrat in there. We got, you know, Lamar Odom. I mean, we've had some high-profile people, you know, connected to this podcast, and you know, giving credit where credit's due. Like I said, man, got over 21,000 views on that YouTube channel, just the Dare Me Podcast YouTube channel. A lot of that, you know, credit goes to the high-profile people giving us shout-outs, because people they see that shit and they're like, what's this fucking Dare Me Podcast Billy Bob Thornton's talking about? What's this Dare Me Podcast Lamar? And so we're grateful for those shout-outs, man. They're giving us endorsements, didn't charge us a fucking dime, you know. And so hey, man, hopefully we'll get, you know, hey, that's a goal of mine, man. Try to get some more of these high profile artists. I was telling Mark and Debbie, who I had dinner with earlier, Dean, I'm going to see Mickey Dolenz in a few weeks. Do you know who that is? Yeah, and I'm seeing him at this small theater in Sacramento called The Crest. I don't even know if it holds 500 people. And if you don't know who Mickey Dolenz is, folks, you're not from my generation. He is one of the monkeys and he's the last monkey that's still alive. And if you don't know what I mean by the Monkees, it's a music group from the 60s, 70s, the Monkees. They were probably just as, if not more famous than the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, back in them days. They had their own TV show, Hey, Hey, we're the Monkees, and all that, Davy Jones, Michael Nesmith. And so anyway, Mickey Dolenz, Take the Last Train to Clarksville, all that, you know. And so
I remember, I think it was like back in the early 90s when I was just in Florida and I was working for a company, and Mickey Dolenz was, I guess, traveling with the Hawaiian Tropic Girls.
Is that right?
Yeah.
No shit.
And of course, he's doing his thing. Of course,
Yeah.
he's hanging out with models. Can't be all that,
Well,
but yeah, that was his thing. It was, but never saw him perform.
I love that these old guys are staying active, man. In fact, we'll talk about the Stones in a minute, but I'm hoping that I might get to meet Mickey Dolenz and get a shout out from him, because he's playing at the same theater where I got the shout out from Al Stewart, who you saw in the reel. Al Stewart, Year of the Cat, Time Passengers, Song on the Radio, all that. Yeah, he gave us a shout out, and there's this like passageway behind the theater there in Sac. They call it Jazz Alley. And so people go there and hang out after the shows a lot, and that's where you get to meet them when they come out. And when I met Al Stewart, there was only 3 of us. It's what a lot of people don't know. So, I mean, if you know the Monkees, I mean, to meet one of the Monkees, it just kind of blows my mind that he's playing this small little theater, because back in them days, bro, they were as big. If you know, you know, but they were as big as the fucking Beatles, Mick Jagger, the Rolling Stones, all that. And now
they started out
playing this small little theater. Meanwhile, Mick Jagger's still playing these huge fucking stadiums.
They were a television show invented band.
Yeah,
and then the band just went nuts. Of course, they had the mop tops, and they're British, and they were, or some of them were British. Davy Jones was British, but Michael, I think the rest of them are American.
Yeah, it was a manufactured kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Like the Partridge Family, like the TV show comes first. It's about a bunch of guys that do goofy stuff, and they what was it? A doom buggy they ran around?
Yeah, they had a cool doom buggy car. Yes,
it was the 60s. It was the 60s.
You're dating yourself. And for any of our younger viewers or listeners, if you don't know what the hell we're talking about,
go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube. You'll love it. I mean, and their show was funny as hell. I mean, it was kind of corny.
Yeah, it was corny.
But it was fun. Yeah. So anyway, let's shift gears and talk about the Rolling Stones. I got to tell you, Dean, it's been killing me that I haven't seen them on this tour yet. Now, the last time they toured, I went chasing them all around. I drove from fucking Orlando to St. Louis to see them. I saw them in Detroit. I saw them in Orlando. I saw them in Tampa. So, I was doing the typical groupie thing, kind of following them all around. And so I had thought about doing that for this tour. And I was going to go and see them in Texas. I was going to go to Vegas. I thought about Seattle. They didn't do Detroit this time. They were doing Cleveland, Chicago. And then I thought, okay, I got all these other trips planned that I'm doing this summer. I said, they're coming to California, and they are here in just a few weeks. They're doing 2 shows in L.A., a couple nights in between, and they're doing a show in Santa Clara, which is about an hour and a half from where I live in Sac. So I thought to myself, you know what? Instead of me chasing them all around this time, I'm letting them fucking come to me. So I am. In 1 week, I'm going to see the Stones, not once, not twice, but 3 times. I'm going to both shows in L.A. and then the show in Santa Clara. And that's actually the end of the tour. They did add one more show they're doing at some festival. I think it's in Missouri. It was kind of an oddball ad they did like late in the game, just a few weeks, maybe a month ago that they added it. And so anyway, I'm going to see the Stones here in a few weeks, but man, I got to tell you, especially when they did that Vegas show, that was a tough one for me to miss. And also the one here in Orlando, Dean. I had a bunch of friends who I'm friends with and follow on social media that went to that show here in Orlando, and they're posting all kinds of videos and all that stuff, and I was just like, oh, I'm missing out, man. I'm missing out. And Vegas is just like a little over an hour flight, hour and a half from where I live. So, man, I really was disappointed I didn't go to that show. But, hey, I made a plan. I'm sticking to it, and I'll see him 3 times in a week. I'm sure by the end of that week I'll kind of be stoned out, pardon the pun. And that's kind of how I felt last tour. After seeing them 4 times, I was like, all right, I'm over it. You know, I mean, I love the Stones, my favorite artists. I always have been. I'm a rock and roller at heart, even though I love all kinds of music. And they're just so inspiring, man, especially Mick. Let's face it, the guy's fucking 80, right, or 79, whatever the hell he is. And he's in the best shape you could imagine for a guy that age. And it truly is inspiring to me and a lot of other people, you know, that are getting up there in years that, you know, here's a guy that, you know, I'm sure, you know, played hard most of his life, but he's living clean now and staying in shape and performing like that. You know, he truly is an artist who has perfected his craft, and I haven't seen, read, or heard even one negative review of the shows, man. Everybody's just loving them. So, anyway, that's that. And then, man, God, there's just so much other great music that's been coming out lately, man. Some of my favorite artists like Foster the People putting out new music. That girl Benny, who we've talked about so many times on the podcast, got some new music coming out soon. And going on tour with a group called The Wallows. I'm definitely going to go see that show. Oh God, you know, like you said, M's coming out with a new CD. I don't think the whole CD's out yet, just that one tune. You know, I mean, I could go on and on, man. So yeah, you know, I'm always posting shit online and new music. You know, that's one thing I want to talk about too, Dean, is that I mentioned Kasky and Anonymous. I'm glad I thought of this because I wanted to talk a little bit about something we've talked about so many times on this podcast previously, the Future of Artists Summit that Kasky and one of his producers and road manager, Anonymous, have put on. And I went to the first one, and it truly was a great experience, man. It's geared mostly toward, I think, younger musicians and artists. But I went, you know, because I like hanging out with rock stars. And I had a ball. And as you know, Dean, and I've talked about on this podcast a lot, you know, I do work in Logic, producing and making music and auto-tune, and I've learned so much, man, with all the plugins and special effects. Kind of had to get past some inhibitions about singing, you know, in my own voice, but I've been doing it for a couple of years now, and I've gotten a lot better at it, man. You know, I've put some songs out there that I've covered. I've done a couple of originals, but I haven't put them out there yet. But I've covered I like doing covers, and so where I'm going with that, y'all, is that at this Future of Artists Summit, I was inspired to really learn to use Logic and Auto-Tune and Pro Tools, dabbling in that, you know, which are these popular software programs that, you know, musicians and singers and rappers, you know, use and stuff. And so I've just had a ball with it, you know. At my age, man, I'm just having fun. I have a passion for it. It is a lot of fun. But I cannot encourage, especially any of our young viewers or listeners, if you're, you know, into music and, you know, you're thinking it's something you'd like to maybe pursue a little bit more, or, you know, whatever, go to this summit, man. It's coming up Labor Day weekend, and it's right here in Orlando at the Caribe Royale. If you go on Google and you just search Future of Artists Summit all the information will come up. You click on the link, all the different levels you can register at. You know, like I said, for today's podcast, man, we don't have no slides or videos or links or anything. This is just us kind of flying by the seat of our pants, you know, shooting from the hip here. But I can't encourage you enough. And even if you just like hanging out with rock stars like I do, go to the thing, man. You'll have a ball, I promise you. And, you know, it's so cool because, you know, these guys are all approachable, man. You know, you get to meet Cass up close. You get to meet Mass. Tasty, his other producer, one of his other producers will be there. That boy Angel Hill, who told me he was going to be on the podcast. Shout out, Angel, if you see this, bro. We're going to hold you to that. Here's another, you know, superstar, man, and we're going to get on the show. I saw him when they were in SAC, and he remembered. He told me he'd be on the podcast. He said, I'm going to do it, man. I told you I would. So we'll have him on it when we come back in the fall. But anyway, I did want to take a moment to talk about that. That is a great event, y'all. So motivational, inspirational. They have motivational speakers there. That boy Bedros, if you don't know who he is, look him up. It's going to be a great event. Another event I thought we'd talk about just briefly, and then we will kind of bring this thing around. We've been going for, about an hour or so, haven't we? About 40 minutes. Yeah. The Narcotics Anonymous World Convention is coming up in Washington, D.C. So, if you're a person who may be struggling with addiction, thinking you might like to find out about 12-step programs, this is a great event, man. Just go, have a good time, take it all in. There's a ton of meetings and speakers and fun stuff. Talking about music, man, they have jazz brunches, and there's going to be some rock and roll concerts, and just, it's a great event. Excuse me. People come from all across the United States and other parts of the world to attend this thing. I'm trying to remember which one. I think this is like the 37th World Convention of NA. I've been to a shit ton of them myself. I first came into NA, not to get too far into my story, way back in 1986. Holy shit. Love to be able to tell you I've been clean that long, but that's not my story. You know, I did have a couple bad relapses, man. I stayed clean once for 16 years and 9 months. I had a bad relapse for about 5 years, stayed clean for 6 again, had another relapse for 9. Now I've been clean for, like I said, over 3 years and 3 months again. And, God, man, I'm 62 fucking years old now. Hopefully I never go back out again, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to do the next right thing, y'all. You know, I was sharing at a meeting last night. I was at a meeting here in Orlando, Dean. It is, in fact, my Orlando home group, and it's an NA meeting called Still Working on It. And, man, it was so cool going there because I posted something online. If you go to my social media on Facebook or Insta, I posted this, you know, a little story I wrote, you know, about that meeting. How when I moved to Orlando, Dean, way back in 1991, I came here, I had 5 years clean. And I moved here from Detroit, and I thought, you know what, I'll give it a try for a year, see how it goes. If it doesn't work out or I don't like it, fuck it, I'll move back to Detroit. And I stayed for 30 years. I lived here in Orlando. This truly is my second home. Even though I moved away a couple of years ago, Orlando will always be my second home. And so when I got here, I went looking for a new home group for, you know, my NA meetings, and that's when I went to Still Working on It. And man, oh man, what a long, rich history that meeting has. And I talked to this boy, Spider Thomas. Shout out Spider. Dude has, oh God, what is it, 44 or 48 years clean. He got clean as a young guy, 18 years old. So to all our young viewers and listeners who we really hope we get through to, man, because too many young people are dying from this fucking fentanyl, you know. There's a prime example of somebody who got clean young at 18, man, and is still doing this. When I got clean the first time, I was just shy of 25. I stayed clean almost 17 years. So for our young people who think, man, you know, you're too young and you're going to miss out, no, you know, No. You can get clean young and stay clean. And I'll tell you what, man, this whole NA, AA, 12-step lifestyle, whatever, it is, in fact, a lifestyle. Because a lot of people, when they're younger, think, oh, they get clean, oh, the party's over, life's going to be so boring. No, not at all, man. You know, there's an old saying around the 12-step rooms, you going to stick around an AA or NA program? Hang on for the ride of your life, because it truly is a lifestyle. It ain't just about going to meetings, man. There's all kinds of stuff going on all the time that you can get involved in. You change your whole circle of friends, and man, we have dances, we have picnics, we have campouts, we have, as I mentioned, which kind of got me into this whole thing, conventions, state conventions all the time. There's a convention going on every freaking weekend somewhere in the country, and the World Convention of NA used to be annual, but now they do it every 3 years. And it's been a while since we had one because of COVID. So I think it's been 6. In fact, the last World was here in Orlando. And so now it's going to be in D.C. And I've heard talk, whatever you want to call it, that this may be the last one in the U.S. for like 9 years, because NA is so huge all around the world now that other countries like having that World Convention too. It's been in a lot of other countries, Canada, Paris, France, Australia, all these different places. So it might be a while before it comes back to the United States. So man, yeah, Washington, D.C., Labor Day weekend is going to be a party for sure, man. It'll be literally, probably about 20,000 people there. No joke. And it's going to be a blast. So, yeah, man, for anybody, maybe new to the recovery community, thinking about trying to get clean, I promise you it'll be inspirational. I'm one of them guys that believes strength in numbers. And for those of us already in the recovery community, living our lives clean, man, what a great party. What a great way to go celebrate our recovery, man, I'm trying not to get filled up talking about it because I've been to so many of them, man. They truly are so inspirational, and yeah, man, they're a blast. So anyway, like I've said, y'all, I'm never at a loss for words. I've been running my mouth since we started this damn thing, and I think I've kind of covered everything I wanted to, except one thing. If you are a regular viewer and listener to our podcast, and you watched our farewell Aloha from Hawaii edition, when we wrapped up the whole year back in March, I made an announcement that, my beautiful daughter Alyssa told me it was okay to talk about, that she is carrying twin boys, and I am going to be a grandfather. It just blows my mind, man. And so anyway, it's 2 twin boys, and it's any day now. They
Wow.
haven't been born yet, but it's going to happen any day, man. And in fact, I was up in Detroit last week, and just the way it worked out with plans and everything, I ended up flying back to Sacramento. I was there for 2 days and then flew all the way back out here to the East Coast to be here in Orlando. And, I would have canceled this trip in a New York second, if, things would have changed or the babies were born or whatever. And so I, let her know, hey, man, if you need anything, I'll stay. She was like, no, go have fun. All good. Safe travels. So I came, but I just keep waiting for that phone to ring. And, I'll be back in Sacramento in a couple days. And,
So have you picked out your grandpa nickname?
Yeah, well, you know what?
And-
They already have a nickname, Glenn, my son, and they call me Papa G.
Yeah.
So, and that, I don't
good.
know. So that might be what it is, Papa G, because my name's Glenn, G. We'll see. Hey, I'm all good. I'm just so excited, man. I got to tell you, Dean, I cannot stop thinking about it. It's like it's the first thing I think about every day when I wake up, and the last thing I think about before I go to sleep. I'm just so excited about it, man. And so anyway, I just thought I'd give an update because I know we do have a lot of people who, our regular viewers, listeners, probably, maybe wondering, wow, man, have the twins been born yet? So any day now, any day. So thought I'd mention that as well. Dean, I have, like I said, kind of hijacked the show and been talking about all my stuff, but what have you been doing since I saw you last, man? It's been a few months, you know. What's your summer been looking like?
Oh, took a trip down
Where'd you go?
Siesta Key.
Oh, right
south
on,
of Tampa.
right on. Yeah, yeah.
Did a little riding down there as well. And,
Yeah.
yeah, that was fun. I was there for the big flood.
Oh, right. Yeah, there was some, I
yeah.
saw that on the news,
There's
man.
some serious flooding going
Heavy
on down there.
storms,
Flood
yeah.
up to my
Wow.
up to my kneecap. Yeah.
Wow.
Thankfully, my truck didn't flood. You know, it was just
Right.
just over the floorboards. You know,
Right,
or
right.
just under the floorboards. And but Josh, that was with us. He had a car, and that car got flooded. He had
Oh,
we had to get
man.
it. Well, we had to get a detail. It was like a couple $100 detail job. You know, and they pulled out about 12 gallons of water out of the car.
Oh, no
You
kidding.
know, so.
Wow.
But that was, you know, at least we, you know. But yeah, there was a lot of flooding. But, you know, a day and a half later, it was as if it never happened.
Yeah, it all
You know,
subsides
you
real
know,
quick
yeah,
sometimes,
yeah.
doesn't it? Well, you know, I'm taking a ride to Miami in the morning to go see that boy Shebang. Remember
Oh,
Shebang?
he's down
Been a
there.
guest on our show. Shout out Shebang, by the way. If you may see this or be listening or watching, he's down there visiting like some family and an uncle and all, and I happen to be here, and you know me, I love Miami, and we might even take a quick ride down to Key Largo, one of my other favorite places in the world. So yeah, man, but the point I'm making is I saw all that bad flooding in South Florida on the news out in Sac. I mean, it
Yeah.
made national news, man. That was bad.
It wound up, I mean, I'll say in a positive note after that, it brought the water temperature down like crazy.
Oh,
you know,
really?
like 10
Yeah,
degrees,
yeah,
and it was
yeah.
actually swimmable.
Yeah, yeah.
So swimmable. The last day we were swimming off Siesta Key, we were in the water, probably up to, you know, about chest height, and there's a good current, you know, waves hitting us, and, you know, Siesta Key, not really known for surfing weather,
Yeah,
but there's
yeah.
some good waves hitting. And all of a sudden I turn, I look, and about 20 feet behind us, it looked like a whale.
You're kidding me.
It looked like a whale, and it was on the cusp of a wave, and I'm like, well, that's not a person. You know, right off
Sure
the bat, I
wasn't
go,
like a dolphin,
well,
or, I
it
mean-
was, Dawn, she was with me, she
Or
said,
porpoise, or-
she said that was a manatee. She saw
Oh, okay,
she saw
yeah,
the
yeah.
face, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, they're pretty big.
You know, they don't have a face, like,
Mm-hmm,
you know. So it was a manatee, but had to be 15 feet.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that was a, like, moment, you know, it's like, oh yeah, there's sea life here too, you know, and that thing just, I mean, I could have just swum out there to it. It was that close.
Wow.
It was that close. Actually, I'd never seen a manatee out in the wild.
Well, Dean,
So-
you mentioned you had a chance to do some riding, and
Oh,
in case
yeah.
you didn't know, folks, Dean is an avid motorcycle rider and has a YouTube channel. Let's talk about it for a minute.
Oh.
Plug your channel,
Oh,
man.
okay.
What's it called again? The
Honda Trail Traveler.
Yeah, and
on
it's
YouTube.
fun as hell. So,
Yeah.
not to steal your thunder, but Dean mounts a GoPro camera in your helmet,
Yep.
right? And takes you on these rides. So tell us a little bit about that, man.
Well, just the one big ride I took this last month was I decided to go to St. Augustine.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah, cool
and
city
of
if you've
course,
never
you
been.
know, in a car, St. Augustine is
history.
you get on I-4,
Yeah.
and you get on I-95, and
Yeah.
2.5 hours later you're there.
Yeah.
Not me. I'm going back roads.
Back roads, yeah.
So I take a straight shot from the Apopka area,
Mm-hmm.
all back roads all the way to Daytona Beach.
Oh, right.
So
What do you
I'm
go,
crossing.
44 or,
Yeah, I mean it's a
yeah.
bunch of navigating
Yeah.
here and there to get you where you need to go, but it's all back roads. So it's you know because I don't want to get on the highway. You know, so I get to, and then I go right out to A1A,
Okay.
and then from Daytona Beach to St. Augustine, I rode A1A.
Wow.
That's a big deal.
Well, it
that's
is. How many
probably.
traffic lights, for God's sake? Is it, I mean, is
I don't
it-
remember any. Maybe a few.
So, like, once you get
It-
north
it's it's a good
of
50
Daytona,
miles
right.
from Daytona Beach right up, and it's most of it's like 90% beachside driving.
Trying to remember, is Ormond north of
Yep,
Daytona? So
yeah,
once you get past Ormond
you hit
Beach,
Ormond,
then it's like
and
you're
then
just riding.
there's Flagler. There's a
Flagler,
handful of
yeah.
other, and then there's some beautiful homes. I mean, we're talking multi-million-dollar
Yeah,
homes.
yeah.
And so I went and hopped on A1A. So took me a good hour and a half to get to Daytona, which is a little longer when you're going back roads.
Yeah, yeah.
And then A1A straight up the coast. And I got to tell you, there's me, the bike, and the ocean.
Wow, sounds like a great ride,
It's probably for a Floridian, it's as big a deal as Pacific Coast Highway.
Oh, yeah, yeah, exactly.
You've got just, and it was a good 40 miles of ocean.
Yeah.
And I'm stopping along the
40
way.
miles, no shit.
Well, it's 50 miles, but there's part of it that you go kind of inland.
Yeah,
and then
I
all the
get it.
mansions kind of
Yeah.
block your view, but a good 40 miles of all oceanside riding.
Wow, man, because I've taken that, but see, I didn't go up A1A. I've
Yeah.
gone up 95, because I've
Yeah.
been to St. Augustine,
And,
a few times.
and US 1, it's just not
That's too far inland, right?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, you don't see
and
those.
and that's all country from
Yeah.
St. Augustine down to
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Barberville.
Yeah.
It's like the woods. It's completely remote because it runs alongside of US 95.
Yeah.
And nobody in their right mind would take US 1 when they could take 95.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, 'cause
so
yeah.
it's empty, and so anyway, my day started at noon, going to Daytona, and then north to St. Augustine. I had a little hiccup with some rain. I had stopped. I saw this massive rain cloud. I knew rain was in the
Right.
forecast.
Yeah, yeah.
Exactly in the location I was heading to. So I knew thunderstorms.
Florida
and I'm going,
thunderstorms ain't nothing to play
and-
with, man.
But
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when I'm on A1A, I'm looking and I'm seeing miles, and I'm seeing, and I go, that one's getting close.
Yeah.
Let me find a convenience store, a gas station, and then just
Yeah.
pull over. And I did it like 5 minutes before it started pouring rain.
Right.
It poured rain for about 10 minutes.
Kind of sat it out.
And I
then
just
you
sat
ran
it
away,
out.
yeah.
You know, a couple other biker guys got off their bikes and,
Yeah.
and sat it out. And then 10 minutes go by and go, oh, I think we're good.
Yeah.
And then it never rained again.
Wow.
And so I'll just to finish real quick, I got
Yeah,
I from that moment, I had another 10 miles, and I was even thinking, man, do I really want to go all the way to St. Augustine? Or should I just find an inland route?
You
and
were
kinda
already
double
that
back?
committed, yeah.
Yeah, you know, so it took me 6 hours to get to St. Augustine.
Which is ordinarily, like you said, about a 2.5 hour
By
drive
highway,
if you go
yeah.
by highway.
And
So you
I got
took
to
all
St.
the sights
Augustine,
in.
and if you know anything about St. Augustine, these micro streets,
Yeah,
kind of like
oh,
Key
yeah,
West,
yeah.
not real drivable or
Yeah,
one-way
yeah.
cars, and
A lot of history
lots
there.
of walking
It's
traffic
Old
on the
Town.
streets.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm on the bike, and I'm riding through all the streets, and I'm weaving in and out of pedestrians
Right. Yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
because
yeah.
everybody's just
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to park. I just wanted to ride through. So I've got beautiful footage of me riding through the small, tiny
And it's
little
posted
streets.
on the channel now? Is it already uploaded? Or is
Well,
that
the
some-
live, I actually did live.
Oh, you did live?
I did.
Wow.
I did live the whole.
And it's still there then, right?
It
Under
should
your
still
live
be
pad.
there,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, so for our viewers and listeners, if you want to follow Dean,
Yes.
what's the channel again, Dean?
the Honda Trail Traveler on YouTube.
Yeah, the Honda Trail Traveler on YouTube. If you want to follow our boy Dean and his adventures on his motorcycle, and that's just one trip.
Right.
You've made a ton of them.
And to recap, it took me 3 hours to ride back.
Oh, okay.
And I did
Yeah.
US 1 in the country as
So you
the
just
sun
kinda
setting.
came in. Yeah.
And took me 3 hours, and I was on that bike for 9 hours.
Well, so
straight.
let me shift gears and pardon the pun and ask you this.
Yeah.
I was just talking to my brother about this the other day. He's an avid Harley rider.
Yeah.
Man. He's got a couple of them. He loves them, a few of them actually. And so one of the best motorcycle rides I ever took was, and I will say, I took a little razzing about this, but we trailered our bikes from Orlando to Key Largo and then rode from Largo to Key West. And
Yeah.
so if you haven't figured out where I'm going with this yet, is that 7 Mile bridge down in the Keys.
Yeah.
Man, if you haven't done that on a motorcycle, everybody should take that ride at least once. I
Oh, yeah.
It's actually like you really have to check yourself yourself to make sure you're paying attention to riding because you just want to take in the beautiful view. So have you done that yet? Or
I haven't done. That was on
you
the
gotta
list.
do that one, man. Yeah, it's on your bucket list? Okay,
It was on the list, and I was trying to get it done during a week when I was kind of flying solo, and I was thinking north, south, east, or west, and then jobs kind of popped up.
Yeah. Well,
you
hey,
know,
man,
so-
if you do that one, let me know. I'd definitely like to watch
Yeah.
that on your YouTube channel.
Yeah.
It's fun. So anyway, there you go, man. And that's been what Dean's been up to. You guys been staying busy here at the studio. Let's
yeah.
talk a little bit about the
Yeah.
studio, man. If anybody's looking, hey, we've said it before. If you've ever thought about doing a podcast, let's face it, everybody and their brother's doing a goddamn podcast anymore. There's millions of them out there. And if you ever thought about doing it on the fence or whatever, call Dean. Contact him, man. Contact us at the Dare Me Podcast. Reach out. PFX Media here in Orlando. They got a couple of different studios here. And I posted a picture on social media of me and Dean right out front here. Dean is your guy. He'd be glad to work with you. Very affordable, very professional, and all that other stuff. So, Dean, let's talk a little bit about that, man. How's things been going here at the studio? You guys staying busy, I see.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're staying busy, and thought normally there's a summer slow or something like that, but yeah.
Well, like I said earlier in the show, God, man, when I pulled up, you guys had a podcast going right in the other room where they
and
were
that one
recording
had
three.
100 live viewers.
Wow, very cool,
I think
man.
100, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very cool. So, yeah, they were doing a live one, and then they recorded 3 in the can. That's the same.
Something like that, yeah.
So,
So-
anyway, well, hey, Dean, I wanted to, give you a little bit of plug here at the business, a plug for your YouTube channel. As always, man, you are a rock star. Thank you so much for keeping us on the air. It is 8:57, and we started right around 8 o'clock, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I figured, hey, we might go about an hour, and that's about what we did, So, like I said, man, this was kind of a spur of the moment. We called it the pop-up flash mob summer special edition of the Dare Me podcast. We just thought, hey, man, it's been a few months since we checked in with everybody. We're so grateful to all the viewers and listeners we've had on this podcast, like we talked about, man, just on the YouTube channel. It still just freaking blows my mind, bro, that we've had over 21,000 viewers to that YouTube channel. And some of the reels we've done, over 25,000 views. It just blows my mind, man, I was going to say this. I'll talk about this before we wrap it up, man, because I started to talk about this earlier and I got sidetracked. I talked a little bit about that Future of Artists Summit that boy Kasky and Anonymous put on, and all the people that I met there and stuff. And when I went to that thing for the first time, Dean, I didn't even know what a reel was, a reel that people put out on social media. I had seen and heard of the stories that are now like at the top of, Insta and Facebook and stuff. And so that was one of the things I learned at that summit is like, man, if you're going to have a presence on social media, really got to start doing these reels and posting stories. And, if you're trying to promote, mainly, what they were talking about is your music, in my case, it was, of course, the podcast, you got to put content out. You got to keep putting content out there. You have to engage with, your crowd, play to your own crowd. And so, where I'm going with that, man, is, since we wrapped the 1 year in March, I have stayed active on social media, and for those of you that follow me, you already know. And man, I'm like hooked on making these reels all the time because I know you follow me, Dean. I go to the gym all the time. I'm like addicted to going to the gym, and so like in between reps or whatever, I'll start getting these ideas because I'm always listening to music, And I'll try to connect the lyrics sometimes to different things we're doing or whatever. And I've been making all these reels, man. I get so much feedback on them. It like blows my mind. So what I had learned there was, man, when you're promoting your music or product or service, like I said, in my case or our case, of course, it's the podcast. One of the things they taught me, and I don't disagree with this. I mean, obviously, worked most of my career in marketing. I know some things, that you can't just constantly be pushing your product or service on people out on social media over and over and over and over and over, because then people just kind of like, here's Glenn again promoting that goddamn podcast. I'm sick of this shit. Scroll right by it. That you gotta put other stuff out there with your content. Be vulnerable is one of the things they taught me, Let them into your personal life a little bit. Let them see another side of you, and then insert your promotions here and there. Oh, and by the way, the podcast, and, or hey, I did this song. You get the idea. And so, even though we're waiting till the fall to bring the podcast back, I mentioned that boy Mass. I had talked with him a little while back, and he's kind of been helping to coach me a little bit, talk more about that down the road. But he said, man, I hate to see you lose the momentum that we, garnered doing the podcast, getting, 21,000 views and all that. And I was just like, bro, I got to take a fucking break from this. It's been a year live every Sunday. I need a break. I'm taking the summer off. And so, at that point, I was still even on the fence about bringing it back. But the point I'm making is I have tried to stay engaged with people on social media to keep that momentum going, keep people's interest. And so, man, what's weird, Dean, is you try different things with these reels you put out there, because I know some of the stuff I put out there, I think even to myself, like, I'll look at it like a couple days later, like, ooh, that was kind of cringy, or whatever. But you put stuff out there, man, and it's like different things that you would think are going to get a lot of attention, get none. And then other shit you put out there and you think, oh, well, this ain't going to get no attention. A ton of people will tune in. You know what I found what people like is, like I said, I go to the gym a lot, and I'll post shit of like me lifting or whatever. People love watching people working out. Those are reels that get probably the most views out of anything I post. Then I got into this thing. I didn't plan it this way, but I like laying out in the sun. People been telling me to stay out of the sun since I was a kid. That ain't gonna happen. It's too late now. I go lay at the fucking pool every day. And so I'll be laying at the pool, whether I even just go for an hour, you know what I mean? And so I start filming these videos of the sun and playing different music. And I always tag the artists, you know what I mean, and try to help promote them in a little bit and shit. And I get a shit ton of views on those. It's so fucking bizarre, man. This social media thing, it's a trip, man. And so anyway, with all that said, before we went on the air today, Dean and I were talking a little bit about social media, and when we get back around to bringing the podcast back in the fall, we're going to do some promos and stuff. And, Dean, you were telling me that, man, with the Honda channel you talked about, you were able to really increase your viewership through some of the social media stuff that you've been doing. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. It's just, you just got to try a lot of things and then do more of what works. Yeah, well, it's a changing thing all the time, man. There's always, like you talked about when we started the show today, it's like we have all these viewers on the YouTube channel, but the Dare Me Facebook page, I must acknowledge and admit, I don't really spend a lot of time promoting that one. We have it, but I never really gave it any focus. It's out there. My whole focus has been on the YouTube channel, where we got over 21,000 views. The Facebook page has 58 followers, and we used to stream on it, and we just found out tonight you got to have at least 100 followers or they won't even let you live stream on it. So, by the way, with that being said, we need 42 more followers on the Dare Me Facebook page to be able to live stream on it anymore. So the point I'm making is it's changing all the time, because it didn't used to be like that on Facebook when we were going live before. So we're out there on all these different platforms, y'all. What the fuck? We're on YouTube, Facebook, X, Threads. What was that one you got? Twitch. And now Insta, TikTok, all the things. But when we come back in the fall, what we're going to be really promoting is all the other big
podcast platforms like, SoundCloud and, Spotify, and Google has theirs and all that stuff, So anyway, with all that said, I have an appointment with another guest we are going to have on the podcast. Is another reason, Dean, that when I really thought and meditated on whether we want to bring it back, that I want to do it again is because even though we were on for a whole year, there were so many things that I wanted to do that we just never did. Guests that I wanted to have on that we just never got around to getting on. And one of them, where I'm going with that, is a friend that I'm going to see tonight, my favorite tattoo artist in the world. Shout out Maria, Ink by Emrod. Check her out on Insta, y'all. Ink by Emrod. Shout out Maria. I have an appointment with her in 55 minutes here in the Orlando area in Altamont Springs. Just getting a little touch-up work done on some of my ink. And so with all that said, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. And, hey, I hope y'all enjoyed this show. The main purpose was to announce that we will be back with the Dare Me podcast in the fall, probably sometime around mid-September. And, of course, we want to come by and see our old pal Dean. Like I said before, Dean, you are a rock star. Thanks for getting us on tonight and doing the show and co-hosting and producing, man. Anything you want to add before we wrap it up, bro?
No.
Okay.
Didn't make our hour now, or an hour and 10 minutes now.
Oh, is that what we are? We're 10 minutes over. Well, hey, man. When we come back, though, I'm going to have a big fucking timer right in front of me, man, because I can hit the mark, I know how to hit the mark. I used to have to do that when I worked in TV and radio here, It's like, man, as you know, Dean, you come from television news. You worked up in Boston in television news, right?
Yeah, Massachusetts.
Which, by the way, man, I mentioned that boy Soldani. I know I'm going on. I mentioned Soldani earlier, Chris Soldani. I want to say congrats to him and all of our Boston friends on the Celtics winning the NBA championship. Do you know that kid has gone viral as the Celtic caveman? I mean, I'm not kidding you guys. I mean, go check him out, man. The Caveman, or Chris Soldani, on your favorite social media platform. He got recognized by like the TD Garden, the Boston Globe, millions of views on some of the videos. He is like truly one of the Celtics' #1 fans, and he got kind of donned with this nickname Caveman, kind of like the Orlando Magic fat guy, Dennis Salvaggio, who we had as a guest on the podcast, only the Celtic version. So, I want to say congrats to all of them, man. But you worked in television news up in Boston back in your younger years, didn't you, Dean?
Yep.
Yeah. And, of course, I did here in Orlando and up in Detroit, So, we know how to hit the mark, and that's what we're going to try to do right now. Wrap this thing up, and we will see y'all again in the fall. So, Dean, thanks again, bro, and we'll see y'all next time in the fall on the Dare Me podcast. So long.
Good night.